Today I'm going to show you how to use the AI object selection in Affinity Photo to colorize a photograph. Now you can use a black and white photograph or a color photograph that you want to just alter some of the colors on, or you can scan an old photograph where the colors are faded and you can convert that into black and white and actually recolorize it if you want. Today I'm not trying to make this really look like a real color photograph so much as I want it to kind of look like an old photograph that's been hand colorized. But you can actually spend some time adjusting colors and stuff using these techniques to get some really pretty realistic effects. And I'm going to show you how to do some adjustments on this as well. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this background. And I'm going to call this one layer right here, I'm going to create, let's just call it reference. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take reference here and I'm going to go up to layer here and I'm going to go to adjustment layer. I'm going to go recolorize and I'm going to leave that red like that. And there's a reason for it, and you'll see. Now if I turn this layer off, you'll see the black and white behind. I'm going to use this to actually help us make some of these layer masks because it will help us see certain things. And you'll see how this works in a second. So I'm going to reduplicate background and I'm going to drag it up above the reference image and I'm going to call this sky. So on sky we're going to highlight that and we're going to go over here to the object selection tool. We'll take a few seconds for it to analyze the picture so it breaks things down into objects. So you'll see this little clock until it finishes calculating, and then once it calculates we can make different selections. Now the thing to remember here is if I hold Alt down, you can see it breaks this up more into smaller objects. And right here, if I select the face and hit Alt Shift, you can see it's taken the hair, or without the shift, with just Alt, it's covering some of the hair because it's gray hair. It's a black and white image and it thinks that's part of his face, I guess. So if we hit Shift down, it breaks it down more. So just remember that you can get kind of finer selection with Alt and then with Alt Shift. So I'm going to not use Alt or Alt Shift. I'm just going to click on the sky here because it recognizes that pretty well. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to create a mask layer right here by clicking on this button right here. You could also go up to layer and you could go to new mask layer and it will do the same thing. So if I hit new mask layer there, it masks that area. So we could hit either one of these. So you can see the reason I have this red here is to show you, okay, that we've masked off the sky now. And this is pretty important. If we open this up, we can turn the mask off and you can see it covers up the red there. But we want to be able to see different parts of the layers beneath each layer as we're colorizing it. So we kind of have to plan ahead to do that. So I'm going to turn the mask back on, and this is the way it should be. Now, let me collapse this again. I'm going to select this, and I'm going to go over here to layer, and I'm going to go to adjustment layer, and I'm going to go to recolor. And you can see just the sky is showing right up there. And we're going to pull it over to blue. Now this would be more realistic blue. I want it to be a little more dramatic and darker. You can also adjust the saturation, and you can adjust the lightness and darkness as well. I'm going to leave it right there for this demonstration. If we close this, we can open up the layer and it will show us the mask and it will show us the recolor adjustment on there as well. So we can click on this and bring that back up and make adjustments to it. So now we've got that layer. Let's collapse it back down. And we want to turn back on this mask too. So you can see, we can see below it now. Let's turn off this layer here to the background layer where it's kind of gray. So this colorized layer is off now and we have all the masks on this layer. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make another copy of the background or duplicate it. So now we're going to take this layer and name it face. Now we're going to drag this above the reference layer. It can go right here actually if you want, or it could go at the top. You can put it wherever you want in this case. And we're going to let's go back up here to select and go deselect that, and we're going to actually going to go here and you can either deselect it or you can hit Control D to deselect it. And so I'm going to go over here to select. I'm going to hit Alt, and it's taking some of the hair with it, so it's a little better when I hit Alt Shift on this. I'm going to hit OK to select it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this mask layer first. And you can see the white is where the mask actually is. So now I'm going to turn on this reference layer here, and you can see this area of his neck. We don't have that. Let's go up to here and deselect that. And let's hit Control Plus to go in, and you can see that it's mistook kind of where this highlight on his neck is as part of his collar. So we want to paint that out. So we're going to click on face so that it opens up where the mask is. Highlight the mask. Then we're going to make sure we have the white selected here. You can actually click here to switch it between black and white. White will be where the mask shows through, and black will be where it's white is where the mask is taking effect, and black is where it shows through to the next layer. So we've selected white. We're going to go up here to the brush, or the brush right here, the brush tool, and right now we have black selected. We want white selected so that we can adjust the mask, and you can see where the mask is showing because we have the layer below it that we can see. So now we're kind of covering up the layer with that layer below, and so the color is showing through below, but we have the face masked off correctly. The other thing that we're going to do right here is we're going to click this to we're going to select black here, and we're going to go over there, make sure that we've got that covered as well. All right, so that should be pretty good for that. So we're going to turn this layer off right now. Now the reason we adjusted the mask there first is because when we create the adjustment layer mask, it will take from this mask and make a duplicate of it. So it makes it easier to adjust it. We can go back and adjust the adjustment layer as well, but in this case, it just makes everything a little bit cleaner. So I'm going to collapse this down, select face again, and I'm going to go to layer, and I'm going to go adjustment layer, recolor. By default, it puts it at red. We want to move it around. We want to desaturate it some. We could lighten it up a little more or darken it. So we're going to go with that as well. So if you can touch, let's uncollapse these. We're going to go right here to where the color layer is right here. And we're going to select this because I want the whites of the eye. So I want to take the color adjustment out. And so what I can do is I can reduce this, make sure that we have this, and I can actually make the whites of the eyes whiter because we're taking out the brown tone out of there. We can even take the pupils of the eyes out, or the irises, and recolor those too if we want to. I'm just going to leave them a brownish color there. So if we go back up to view and we go to zoom to fit, there we have that. So we've got the flesh tone there. We've adjusted the mask. The thing that's important to remember is if you're colorizing and you have an adjustment layer too, you may have to adjust the mask and the adjustment mask. In this case, we did some adjustments to the adjustment mask so that it didn't apply the effect to the white of the eyes right there. That's fine in this case. So you may have to experiment with that a little bit, depending on the image and how many layers you have. So let's collapse that back down again. And so the last thing we're going to do is the coat, or the next thing we're going to do. So we're going to go to background and we're going to duplicate that again. And we're going to name this coat. And you can experiment when you're doing different layers. You can move them up and down to see if certain layers are blocking out things you don't want them to. So I'm going to leave this here initially as this. And I'm going to go over here to the object selection tool. And it's going to take a minute to think because this is a different layer. And it's analyzing it, or reanalyzing it in effect. So I'm going to hold down Alt and just get the coat right there. And I'm going to create a mask. And it's created a mask for the coat. And I'm going to highlight this again. And I'm going to create a new adjustment layer. And we're going to go Colorize. Now, you can do adjustment layers. You can use the same technique to use adjustment layers to use any adjustment. So you can adjust contrast or exposure or anything on a particular part of an image with this. So that's something to remember. These techniques work using other adjustments and other edits on photographs that are color that you're not even colorizing, in fact. Or if you want to just make one area of a photograph a little warmer or cooler, you could use this technique to do the same thing. So right now you have the red coat. Let's move it over to here. Let's mute the saturation somewhat and then adjust it. I'm going to go with that right here. We're going to go up to select and go deselect. We're going to close that down, the coat down there. And so you can see now that we have multiple layers that we can turn off. We can turn the red layer on too. The red layer is actually above the coat, so it covers it. In this case, we could move the coat above it, and then we would see that as well. So sometimes the layer position doesn't make as much difference depending on the other layers and what you're doing. So we've now colorized this image. We could actually go in and colorize his hair as well too, but you get the idea. And we could also colorize his shirt or colorize even the buildings or certain buildings, depending on the image and what we wanted. So this gives you an idea of how you can use AI object selection in Affinity Photo and use layers and adjustment layers together to colorize a photograph.